Welcome to From College to College. This podcast explores innovative teaching, learning, and quality in further education and community college, with lessons from both sides of the pond. Whether you're a lecturer, a leader, or a lifelong learner, this is your conversation. I'm Dr. Lauran Kerr-Heraly. I'm American, I'm British, and I've been involved in college education for over 20 years. Each episode, I share my own experiences as a history professor, innovation fellow, and quality lead. I also sit down with amazing college professionals from the UK and the US to highlight incredible practice in the college sector. We'll talk about what's working and why, and give you creative ideas to employ on your campus straight away. Let's get started. Hiya and welcome. You're listening to From College to College, and this is our very first podcast episode. In this inaugural episode, I'll be telling you a bit about me so you'll understand my background and my why for starting this show. I'll also talk about what innovation means in the context of teaching and learning and why I think it's so central to success in college education. Overall, the podcast will explore teaching, learning, quality, and innovation in the college sector, both in the US and the UK. We'll talk to experts on both sides of the pond, provide ideas and strategies you can use on your campus, and share stories to encourage and challenge you in your own practice. The first season will have 9 episodes released bi-weekly. After you subscribe, you'll get notifications when new episodes drop on Mondays. I'm so excited. So a little bit about me. I started as a community college student. I was a non-traditional student, finished high school early, went to college early, so this was a really good option for me. I went to Midland College. Shout out to any West Texas folks listening. And after a year, my family moved to Houston, so I transferred over there and ended up going to several campuses of the same sort of college conglomerate in the Houston area. And I had a really great time. I feel like I benefited from the small class sizes. I feel like I benefited from the community atmosphere. And of course, I saved a lot of money. So all around, it was a really good experience for me. So I've always had this love for community college from the very beginning. So when I was getting my master's degree, I got an undergraduate degree in social sciences. And when I was working on my master's degree in history, I taught adjunct classes, history classes, sort of part-time at a community college. And I also loved that and thought, after I had the experience, that this is what I really wanted to do. I wanted to work in college. It was a long-term goal of mine, and I could see that just from teaching part-time. I loved the ethos of community college, the level playing field. You had people from all backgrounds, and I loved what it was trying to accomplish, what we were able to do with very little money and resources, but still being able to serve such a diverse population. So when I went on to get my PhD in history, I still had planned on finishing my PhD, and I was still teaching part-time at a community college, and I wanted to be a full-time professor, history professor in a community college. That was my goal. But I had an advisor that told me I was best meant for community college and not for a research university. Now, she meant this as like a dig, but I took it as a compliment. But I thought it illustrated how people don't understand that excellence can exist in a community college, that it's a really great, not only place for learners, but also for professionals. So immediately after I finished my PhD, I actually ended up moving to the UK, and I worked in a boarding school for 5 years, and then I taught in a secondary school in London, and I was able to get my citizenship during that time. My husband and I had a baby. There were a lot of life changes, but we loved the UK, and for a variety of reasons, ended up moving back to Texas. Was lucky enough to buy my grandmother's home, and I decided, after working another year in secondary school in a college prep program for low-income learners, that really my calling was in college. And so I spent a year teaching part-time in various colleges around the Houston area, and I got lucky to get a full-time professorship in Houston. So thankfully, I had 5 great years at Houston City College. I was not only a history professor, I was also part of the Innovation Fellow Program, which is a cohort of faculty and staff. Houston City College is huge, so we had people from all across the system, from advising, from teaching, from all sectors, really. And it was a great opportunity to learn about innovation, learn about creativity, learn about thinking outside the box, solving problems in ways that maybe were not obvious. And I loved working with a cohort of people and designing different things like my escape room project, which I'll talk about in successive episodes. I helped develop a program called Back to the Future, which was a skills competition involving the culinary arts program as well as other curriculum areas. So I had a lot of great experiences there. I still have great connections there, but my family decided we wanted to move back to England. And that's what brought me to further education. So a little bit of explanation about the difference between community college and further education. You might be familiar with one or the other. I call them very close cousins. We have learners anywhere from the age 15 to 90, and it serves a lot of the same purposes as further education, but it is seen as either a dual credit, which is meaning that you can get sort of college credit while you're going to high school, or a post-secondary experience. In the UK, a lot of our learners are ages 16 to 19 in our study programs, but they're getting qualifications generally that will either prepare them to go on to university or in a lot of cases go straight into the workforce. So both institutions have options for study programs or associate degrees that can be enough to go straight into the workforce with some really great experience and connections, or prepare you for further study in university. There's also community programs in both sectors, both in community college and in further education for adult education, English as a second language, learning new skills, etc. So while they might function differently, their ethos is the same. And like I said, they're very close cousins. So when we decided to move back to the UK, I knew I wanted to stay in the college sector. So I started looking into further education jobs and was really lucky to land in an amazing place and an amazing role. I'm now a quality and innovation lead, which encompasses anything from helping lecturers, helping instructors to learn more about pedagogy, to engage with their learners more. It's a little bit of data. It's a little bit of deep dives into the curriculum. It's a lot of things that I love. And of course, I'm still teaching history, so I get to do all of that as well. So that's why it's from college to college, because I wanted to look at college education in both the US and the UK. A lot of people will ask me when I'm in the US, they say, well, what are the biggest concerns or biggest innovations in college education in the UK, and vice versa? When I'm in the UK, people are asking me what's going on in the US, right? So it's fun to look at both of those sides. There will be some terminology that might be a little bit different, and I'll do my best to explain because as a British American, I do a lot of code switching myself. So there's still some sort of vocabulary that I'm learning, and I'll do my best to kind of explain in the moment. But it's one of the benefits of working in an international education community is that you get to learn from people from all different contexts. So the other main thing I want to talk about today is what innovative teaching is. Innovation has become one of those words that could mean just about anything. And in the context of how I'm going to approach it, without it being a buzzword that doesn't have a clear shared meaning, I'm going to address it from intentionally changing or improving the way you help students learn. This is important for us as educators in the college sector that we're intentionally thinking about this. Now, we talk a lot about learner-centered or student-centered education, but that ultimately should mean that we're having a better time as well. So I want to make it clear that this is not about scrapping everything that you're doing. I'm not telling you that you have to turn your classroom into an escape room, although it is really fun. I recommend that. But it's not about scrapping everything. It's about trying some new things and maybe subtracting some things that aren't working. It's not technology for its own sake. We could have whole episodes on AI. We probably won't. But it's not just employing something or refusing to employ it just because. It's also not something flashy that looks good in observations but doesn't land. In my current role, I do a lot of what we call learning walks, which are just 5 to 10 minute pop-ins, and they're meant to be helpful. We have conversations about the culture of this, and that I'm not coming in to, mark people down and flag it up to their supervisor. But I just am genuinely curious about what's going on, and we have great conversations about the type of learning that's happening and the types of activities that are going on. But it's not about, that your line manager is coming to observe your lesson in 4 weeks, so you're going to do the coolest things you can think of and hope they go really well. That's not what this is about either. So it's purposeful. It's asking whether what you're doing is actually working. And if it's not working, then why? Thinking about failure and experimentation as positive and not as, I'm not going to do that because it might not work, or just deciding I'm never going to try anything because if it doesn't work, then I've lost a bunch of time. So why does innovation matter in further education and community college specifically? Our students are not a homogeneous group. We have so many people from so many different backgrounds. They come in at varying levels of knowledge and skill. They come in at different ages, all types of socioeconomic and ethnic backgrounds, as well as different experiences with their prior education. They might have had an awful experience in school, and we're trying to recalibrate what it means to learn and be in an educational environment. So because our students are not a homogeneous group, we need to look at different, new, exciting ways to engage them. We also need to look at possibly some very traditional ways that work, but how we can tweak those in order to reach the learners that we have. We might have returning learners. At community college, this was very typical that people would, particularly women, have raised their kids and they were ready to do something for themselves. We've got people balancing work and family. Even our younger learners are often taking care of parents or younger children. And a one-size-fits-all approach is not going to serve them. So if we're not innovating, we're not trying new things, we're not looking at what needs to go, then we're not serving them, and we're also not going to have a good experience ourselves. So we're going to look at what innovation looks like in practice over the course of this season. And I'm really excited to talk to different guests as well as share more of my experiences. So the takeaway from today is to try one small new thing. This is what we call the ripple effect. You try one new thing, one small new thing, and see how it works. How does it feel? How do your learners respond? How do you need to tweak it for the next time? And once you've done a couple small things, you'll get the confidence to try more. You'll get the confidence to throw things out that aren't working. You'll get the confidence to get ideas from other people, get feedback, and continue to learn and grow in your own practice, and then therefore have a better time with your learners because they're more engaged. So that's our first ever episode completed today, and I will see you on the next one. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks for listening to From College to College. If you found today's episode valuable, please subscribe. To get my free newsletter and access all resources mentioned today, head to the show notes. You can also visit my website to learn more about speaking engagements, coaching, and executive function support. And if you're enjoying the show, please take a moment to rate and review. This makes a huge difference in helping others discover it. Cheers, y'all!